A one-bedroom apartment, 11 at night. A 29-year-old man is sitting under a poster he put up when he was 15, looking at his phone. Same bed, same closet, same desk. The only thing in the room that has changed is the age of the person in it. This room is not in one country. In the United States, 19% of men aged 25 to 34 live in it. For women the same age, it's 13. In the European Union, there are 9 countries where men don't leave their parents' home until after 30. Countries where women do are 1. I read a post last week. It said that men with no children and no plans to marry have become the fastest growing group in the developed world. Underneath, 5 reasons: economic uncertainty, fear of divorce, wanting freedom, the emotional labor of relationships, and I need to work on myself first. Let me say this up front. The claim itself is true. In 1990, the share of American adults aged 25 to 54 living without a spouse or a partner was identical for both sexes, 29%. By 2019, it was 36% for women and 39% for men. 2 lines that sat exactly on top of each other 30 years ago have come apart, and the side pulling away is men. So the list is asking a real question. But all 5 items share one assumption, and that is where the whole thing collapses. Every one of them assumes this was a decision, that the man sat down, thought it over, waited, and said no. The answer isn't the economy. The answer isn't changing values either. The answer is more uncomfortable than both. For most of them, it was never a decision at all. I'm going to show you a number. 2%. We'll get there. This is the kind of thing we take apart layer by layer on this channel. So subscribe if you'd rather not miss it. And the most unpleasant part of this video hasn't happened yet. Let's test the most popular explanation first. They don't want it. Americans aged 18 to 34, who don't have children yet, get asked a very simple question. Do you want to be a parent one day? 57% of the men say yes. Among the women, it's 45. Read that again. Young men want children more than young women do. Which means they don't want it isn't an explanation. If the wanting is there and the outcome isn't, then something is standing in between. Let's start with the most obvious obstacle, because the first item on that list is a serious item. Last year, the median age of a first-time home buyer in the United States hit 40. In the early 1980s, it was in the late 20s. First-time buyers are now 21% of the market, the smallest share since anyone started counting. The median age an American man marries for the first time is 31. So the average man is expected to start a family about 9 years before he can afford the place to put it. Then there's the wedding itself. The average American wedding now costs $34,000. 117 guests, $292 a head. For one afternoon, that is roughly 5 months of the median household's entire income before tax. So starting a family is expensive is not a feeling. It's an invoice. But being delayed is one thing, and being filtered out is another. Here's that 2%. American data, 2019 to 2023. Of the men in the top income bracket, 11% got married that year. Of the men in the bottom bracket, 2%. I didn't round that. TNDR. The totals are even starker. 20% of the lowest earning men are married. Among the highest earners, 61. Now run the same numbers for women. 10% at the top, 5 at the bottom. The gap is still there, but it's half the size. Marriage has stopped being a preference and turned into a function of your income bracket. And on men, that filter runs twice as hard. Fine, you're saying, but that's correlation. Maybe the men who don't marry are just men who never got their lives together. Fair objection. I assume the same thing. So economists came at it from the other end. Autor, Dorn, and Hansen tracked the American regions where manufacturing collapsed between 1990 and 2014. The plant closes. Men's relative earnings fall. Then the marriage rate falls. Then the birth rate falls. Nobody's values changed. Nobody woke up one morning and chose freedom. The income went first, and marriage followed it. The changing values story was written afterwards. The outcome came first. The explanation came second. So why is the filter twice as hard on men? Because the economy changed and the yardstick didn't. Whether a man counts as marriageable still comes down, largely to a single question. Can he provide? However often we say that expectation is over, in practice, it is still in force. What disappeared is the world that made meeting it possible. The numbers give you that as a portrait. 73% of unpartnered American men are employed. Among partnered men, 91%. Median annual earnings, $35,600 against $57,000. 31% of unpartnered men live with a parent. Among partnered men, 2%. That is not a table of preferences. That's a table of elimination. And let's be clear about one thing. This video is not about women being too picky. The same income gap exists for women. It's just half as steep. The point is this: the old contract was never repealed, but the economy that could satisfy it is gone, and nobody wrote a new one. Now, you might be thinking this is an American problem. In Japan, more than a quarter of men now reach 50 having never married once. 26.6% against roughly 18% for women. The average Japanese man marries at 31 tall. In South Korea, it's almost 34. A new record nearly every year. Croatia, Slovakia, Greece, Italy, Spain. Young adults there leave home after 30. Different languages, different religions, different housing markets, same room. And in every single one of them, the men stay in it longer than the women. When the same pattern shows up in a dozen countries at once, it isn't a generation's personality. It's a structure. Because the economy is only half of this. In 1990, 3% of American men said they had no close friends. Today, it's 15%. The share with 6 or more close friends fell from 55% to 27%. Among men who are neither married nor in a relationship, 1 in 5 has no close friends at all. And there's this: 63% of men under 30 are single. Among women the same age, 34%. If both of those are true at the same time, you have a matching problem. The places where people used to meet each other thinned out, one by one. The neighborhood, the workplace, the friend group, the bar you went to on a Thursday because everyone was there. Even if the economy recovers tomorrow, the place you were supposed to meet someone isn't coming back. What about fear of divorce? Item 2 on the list. Divorce is real, and it is brutal. But look at what has actually happened. In the United States, the divorce rate peaked in 1981 at 530 per thousand people. Today it's 244. Measured properly, as divorces per thousand married women, it has fallen from 22.6 in 1980 to 14.4. Sit with that for a second. The fear of divorce went up while the risk of divorce went down. And notice something else. That is data about people who married. A man who never got to marry isn't explained by divorce statistics. He's explained by his income bracket. The fear is real. It just isn't the engine. Let me admit something. There was a stretch when I said that sentence too. I don't want it anyway. And it sounded convincing, even to me. Because saying you don't want something is so much easier than saying you couldn't get it. One makes you independent, the other makes you defeated. I think that's why this sentence traveled so fast. Everybody loves it's a conscious choice, because it holds nobody responsible. Housing policy isn't responsible. Wages aren't responsible. The neighborhood that disappeared isn't responsible. It was his own choice. Nobody gets blamed. And because nobody gets blamed, nobody fixes it. Which is exactly why the door to that room stays shut. Back to where we started. A 29-year-old man sitting under a poster he put up when he was 15. 9 countries where the men don't come out of that room until after 30. Countries where the women don't. One. That room is not the decision room everybody thinks it is. It's a waiting room. The man inside it never said no. He's waiting for his turn, and his turn isn't coming. So maybe the question isn't why don't men want to get married? Maybe the question is this: when did starting a family stop being something you're owed and become a prize you have to earn? Worth thinking about.